Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar/information session on pursuing higher studies in the US. I will kickstart by introducing our panel members. And first of all, a huge thank you to all the students and the panel members for joining the session and sharing their valuable insights and spending their valuable time with us. We have Keerthana Chellappan, who's currently working as a growth marketing manager at Parade. She did her master's in management studies in Duke University, the Fuqua School of Business. She also did her bachelor's from CEG in computer science. Next, we have Viajayalaxmi Padmanabhan, who's working as a UX designer too at Nutanix. She completed her master's in human-centered engineering and design from the University of Washington, and she completed her MSc in IT from CEG. We have Roshan Kanth, who's working as a controls engineer at New Eagle. He completed his master's in mechanical engineering from the University of Washington and bachelor's in mechanical engineering from CEG. Next, we have Balaji Sridhar, who is currently a student, and he's pursuing his master's in computational mechanics from Carnegie Mellon University. He completed his bachelor's in civil engineering from CEG. Last but not the least, we have Ashwin Murali, who's working as a consultant in AMCL. He completed his master's in civil engineering from Columbia University, and he also completed his bachelor's in civil engineering from CEG. Very excited to have this really versatile set of panel members from a really nice variety of majors and career fields. So I am going to kickstart with an icebreaker question. So I want to have all of you share an embarrassing or a memorable incident from CEG days. And this question is for the panel members, for current students, anyone who wants to jump in no particular order.
I can go first.
Sure.
So it's not CEG without talking about the monkeys. I had many traumatic experiences with monkeys, but I'll share one of the less traumatic ones. So I was walking along the the Vivek Audi Road, and it was Taco Fest. So I had bought like a cone ice cream, and I remember I only had enough to afford that one cone ice cream of all the stalls. So it was a huge day for me. And I was expecting a friend to come and join me, a school friend, and this school friend was really well known for like pulling girls' skirts. Like she would just like gently tug it. She was very infamously known for this. So I was walking with two other friends, just waiting for this other school friend to show up, having my cone ice cream, having the best day of my life. And I feel someone tug my pants. And I'm like, oh, it must be this school friend. And I turn around and nobody's there, but I keep feeling the tugging on my pants. And I look down and there's this really tiny monkey. And he just points at the ice cream. And I'm like, wow, he's asking so politely. I might as well just give it to him. And I just give him the cone and he walks away. That's it.
Oh,
I'll
wow.
never forget that monkey.
He just wanted your attention, I guess.
He knew what he wanted in life. He just knew.
Very nice. Anyone else? A memorable, funny incident?
Maybe I can just share a small anecdote. Something not I'm very proud of, but I think it's nice to share it right now. I think during the first year when I was in CEG, I think it was TechFest or Kurukshetra, one of these two. So me and my friends were helping with the organizing committee for a couple of events, and we needed to move in and around the campus. So one of my friends, he had a scooter, and he did not have the pass on his scooter. And since we needed to get here and there very quickly, what we did is 4 of us got into one scooter and we moved from one point of the campus to another point because it was too cumbersome to walk the whole distance. And the place where we stopped, there were like a couple of the security persons, and they stopped us. They took our ID cards. It was a whole mess. But then we sort of like talked our way out of it. But yeah, this happened way back in first year, and yeah, it's a good memory right now. Didn't really enjoy it that time, but it's a good memory right now.
Right.
I think I was there, Ashwin.
You probably were. Yeah.
Yeah. For context, me and Ashwin are batchmates. So yeah, I think I should go next. So
Sure.
something I wouldn't say the same, but similarly humiliating, I'd say. There was a time when me and my friends we were walking along the road, and like we saw one of our staff, and we said hi to them, and they said hi back. And then the next day in class, they're like, there's a they're asking questions, and the staff asked us, "What were you doing?" Asked a question. I was like, "Hi," and he's like, "You could have started studying instead of roaming around the campus." It's like, and the thing is, the staff is kind of a very fun person, so he kind of was like joking around about, and like, yeah. So you meet a lot of people on campus, not only the monkeys.
Sure.
So I had many good experiences, but one pretty bad experience that I had, which I want to forget, but that comes to my mind is like it was my second semester at CEG, and it was English final examination, and then I it was a Monday, I guess, and then I came back from my hometown the 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 morning of the day, and then the exam was in the afternoon, and I think I finished my lunch and I forgot that I had my phone in my pocket, and then I went into the examination, and then after half an hour the flying squad came, and then it was like then I realized that he told everyone to check everything, like and then I checked that I have my phone, and then I'm like, what to do? So then it's like, since it's an English examination, I thought that nobody would want to bring anything to an English examination or something like that generally. So I thought, okay, let's be honest and take out the mobile and give it to him. And also, I found that two more people had carried an mobile phone. One other guy from computer science department, he also had a phone in the with him. And then so he also gave it to him, and then the flying squad took our phones, took our papers. So it was already 1 hour gone, and I had almost completed the examination. And then he told us, he came back half an hour later, and he told us to start the examination again. And then we wrote the examination, and then I gave it back. And then I think, yeah, so I just got fined some 2,000 rupees, I guess, at that time, me and both that guy. But then I found that from the next semester, if something like that happened, it was a direct, they would directly fail you. So just got lucky in that thing, in that sense. But it was it was a memory from CG. So
Narrow escape.
yeah.
Awesome. I think I can go next. So this was back in 2012 when I was in my first year, I guess. Yeah. I don't know if this is still happening, but back then ragging did happen to first year. And that was during Agni times. And I was just like roaming around the campus with a couple of other my friends. And a couple of seniors caught us. And then we didn't have our tags, unfortunately, but they did figure out that we were first years. And they gave us tasks and all of that. But since we were like postgraduate students, right? So MSCs of the green tags, right? So we immediately took out our green tags, and then they were like, "Oh, you're like postgraduate students, so sorry." And then they said sorry to us, and then they left. But unfortunately, we were actually first years. It is an integrated course, and yeah, they didn't know that. So we were like very proud of having to wear a green tag in the campus. So yeah, but it was all fun, like especially all the tech office admin times.
Right. It's funny because I think when around the time that I was studying, if the ragging rules were so strict that I had one of my cousin brothers as my senior, and he was wearing a gray tag. And if if I was talking to him, then I think the local campus police, they would just
Oh.
assume that we were getting ragged, and my brother would actually even be scared of talking to me on campus. And yeah.
Which year was this?
This was 2017, my first
17. Okay.
year. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. That was any students who are currently studying who wanna share their funny incidents? Okay. A small request, students, if you can turn on your videos, that would be amazing, but no pressure, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. All right. That was amazing. That was a series of really memorable incidents. So I'm going to start off with introducing our panel members, which I actually already did that, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead with asking questions to panel members in no particular order. Keerthana, so what made you choose the path of pursuing a master's in management? Because you're from a computer science background, and I think that from CG, at least, a vast majority of students typically pursue computer science or some sort of specialization in computer science or something like that. So what made you choose the path of pursuing management?
So I think for me, a lot of the debate came down to um, what am I good at versus what am I passionate about? And I realized that I can, in theory, be a good engineer. I was very good at like, the classic courses, very good at like the third year like internship interviews and all, everything went well for me. So I knew that I did have a career there, but it ultimately wasn't what I was passionate about. So when I thought back to it, I know like when sometimes, staff or even parents where we get pressure not like to focus only on studies and not to think about extracurricular activities. But I was very involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and I realized like that is what I'm passionate about. I'm not just doing it, to cut class or, just for fun. I actually am passionate about it. So when I really thought about what aspects of this am I passionate about, it was like through Gindi times working with such a large team. I love to work with the team. I did a lot of event organizing. I loved marketing the events and thinking of ways like developing events that were really interesting for people to come and join. And that was something I was known for as well. And I thought, let me try going in the management line. I think not only could I do marketing, but down the line, I might be able to start a business with these skills. So it was very scary at the time, but I decided, let me not do what I'm good at and let me follow something that I'm passionate about.
That's amazing. I think that takes a lot of courage to do. That's pretty awesome. So once you decided that you wanted to pursue a career in management, how did you kind of build your profile for a career in management or to pursue higher studies in management? Like, how did you utilize the 4 years of your bachelor's in order to go down that path?
So I think it was just taking what I already had and just thinking of it from different angles. So yes, I did have a share of extracurricular activities, which is really easy to say, okay, I led this event or I coordinated all these volunteers. It's easy to say that. Um, but I also had like a fair share of engineering experiences like project work, lab work, coursework, all of that. So for me, it was being able to craft that like not trying to be just one thing with management, but really just trying to craft it all together. So there was the one half with extracurricular activities, which was clear management example, and thinking about my projects and saying, okay, I was able to roadmap where the project should go, I was able to project manage and delegate the work. So not focusing only on the engineering angle, but bringing in different aspects. So um, that was how I was able to like cater what I already had into what I wanted to do. So that's also why I encourage, even if you feel like it's like, even if you're in your fourth year and you feel like you want to do something that you may not have experience in, when you really look back and write down every single experience you have, you'll be able to find like different ways to position yourself for something that you didn't know existed. Like it could be management, it could be marketing, it could be finance. There's always a way to look at your existing skills and position it that way.
Thank you. I think that's very useful because I do know that when I have interacted with a lot of current students, they're from the engineering background and they still have aspirations to go to business school, even if it's not directly an MBA or a management, they're looking at business analytics. And so I think that is very useful. Thank you. My next set of questions are for Roshan. Um, what are some options for specializing in mechanical engineering after an undergraduate in mechanical engineering?
Yeah. So typically when you look at mechanical engineering, the different domains, you have a lot, like you can either go into thermodynamics, heat and mass transfer, or you can go into fluid mechanics, or you can go into mechatronics and robotics, or you can completely go into manufacturing. You have metrology and measurements. So like there is a lot, but really the thing that's happening right now, the demand in the market and everything points towards AI and robotics and stuff. So people would generally prefer to go into mechatronics and robotics, which is lucrative these days. But then mostly I see people coming from other backgrounds, if they are into manufacturing and if they are into fluid mechanics and other stuff, like those people are really more passionate about their studies and stuff like that. And so when I did my undergrad, initially I thought I'm more interested in thermodynamics and stuff. But later I realized in my final year that when I did my mechatronics course, I realized that that's something that I wanted to pursue. So then I went into I worked for 4 years in TVS group of companies, mostly uh, in a manufacturing setting. So doing low cost automation, like something related to automation and stuff like that. So from then I realized that I wanted to upgrade my set of skills. And then when I was exploring, I found that robotics is something that I can pursue. Also, I have options like controls engineering and stuff like that in that field. And AI was also looking something interesting. But then when I saw my profile and how it fits to AI, then I found out that there is a huge gap that I have to fill if I have to be successful in AI in the current industry right now. Because being a mechanical engineer and working mostly in automation in a manufacturing setting and not having a proper profile related to AI, I thought that that wouldn't be my best choice. So then I had to choose between robotics and controls. And initially I took a few courses in controls at the University of Washington. Then I found that that's the thing that I like the most, and I just pursued controls engineering. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Awesome.
Mhm.
While looking for jobs, how did you
Yeah,
navigate that process and did you face any particular challenges?
yeah, right. So there were a lot of challenges, to be honest. So it's like you start your master's degree in fall. Like generally people start in fall, and ours was a quarter system in the West Coast. So it's like your course starts in October, and then by the end of December or January, you would start looking for internships. And then when you see, like, I still had like I took one course in controls engineering and I took one course in machine learning, something related to AI and stuff like that. So I kept my options open, and when I saw the LinkedIn job profiles, then I found out that the kind of skills set of skills that I asked you, even for an intern, was like pretty elaborate, and like they were expecting a lot from you, especially if you want to go into machine learning and stuff. But it was like, if you want to go into AI, you have like plenty of options. Like I could have directly applied for 150 to 200 companies, but if I wanted to do a controls engineering internship, I hardly had 30 companies to apply for. So yeah, but I took my chances with controls engineering, and then I applied, and then I gave 3 4 interviews, and I even went to final rounds. But it didn't click out. But suddenly, the current company that I'm working right now, so the one of the employees of that company saw my profile through LinkedIn, and he contacted me, uh, and he told that we can talk, and if it works, we can figure out. And then it just clicked, and then I did my internship for 6 months straight, and then I converted it into a PPO, and then now I'm here. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's half luck and like half the course that I chose.
For
Definitely.
sure. I
Mm.
would just like to highlight one important point that you mentioned is while you're looking for jobs, and
Mhm.
you mentioned that seeing the job descriptions is hugely helpful. So that's a huge tip to students.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look at the job descriptions and they'll be pretty
Mm.
specific about what kind of skills they're looking for.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's very useful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My next question is for Balaji. Um, what made you choose computational mechanics, having done an undergraduate in civil engineering?
So, I actually started off at Carnegie Mellon as a master's in civil and environmental engineering, not computational mechanics. So, when I started applying, my interests were mainly in doing things which were very mathy and physicsy. So, my interests mostly are kind of like that. So, I was looking for structural engineering courses. So, while I was applying, I was looking for programs in the US which are structural engineering heavy. But while I was looking across, I found CMU's program quite unique because I liked how it was kind of an interdisciplinary take at things. Like there's a lot of tech involved into the things, and so I applied here. So here there's two tracks which they offer. One is the computational mechanics track, and another track was the infrastructure track. So I was looking at them both, and like I started taking courses from both in my first semester. But as I took courses, I realized that I liked a lot of the stuff being offered in computational mechanics track more. So I decided that okay, I'll double down and change my title and head down this line. So that is why I'm doing a master's in computational mechanics now.
Great. So did you essentially apply again, if I understand correctly?
No, so I have the option to change my degree title in the
Oh,
based on my coursework. So I can shift inside internal. It's not exactly I reapplying. I just have to put in a form and I can just change it.
so it's essentially like changing your coursework in your master's. A little
Actually
bit.
here the coursework is self-decided. So I sit down with my advisor and we just choose what courses I want to take and I just take those courses. So
Interesting.
essentially I can take courses from any department I want, but it would be more focused towards what I'm interested in and what my degree title is for. So we sit down and decide like this is what I want. So that's what makes changing the degree title so easy for me.
Got it.
Mhm. And
Did you?
that's something I want to point out actually. So when we're applying to masters, definitely look at how your coursework is designed at the university and whether it aligns with your interests. Because even though I'm doing a master's degree from a civil engineering department, my degree title is computational mechanics, and I'm not doing anything exactly very civil engineering. I'm doing more mathematics and optimization and stuff like that. So definitely look into what universities you're planning to apply to. Look at what courses they're offering, how the course is structured, and what kind of students are leaving the university. Like, are they going into job roles, or are they going into PhDs, or what kind of positions they're applying to? Usually, most universities have that information on their website, and if they don't, there is external sources for that as well.
Those are really good insights. Thank you. My next couple of questions are for Ashwin. You also are from a civil engineering background and are in the field of management consultancy. How did you sort of bridge the gap between two different fields, and how did you make your way into management consultancy?
Yep. So I'd like start off with how I applied for this course and then how I pivoted to a different industry. So when I was in my third year, that's when I applied for my master's. And when I was applying for my master's, I saw so many courses available in the US with like different kinds of nomenclature. It's not really sure which one to go to. So I was under the impression that I need to get a taste of the options in a practical setting before going into the particular direction that I want to. So I looked at construction management at Columbia University, and I think it's sort of like in tandem with what Balaji said, but a lot of universities in the US have extreme flexibility. For example, the course that I took at Columbia University, although it's called construction management, I had the opportunity to take courses from the business school, from the CS department, from the mechanical department, a lot of options. And when I was looking at alumni from my program, I saw people going into various different fields. Like I have a friend who studied with me who went into fintech right now, although the degree that he did is construction management. I have another friend who went into computer science. So there's a lot of flexibility. So to get back to the question, although I took construction management, I catered my courses and my study pattern towards more of digital transformation and consulting. So I took courses from different departments. And in essence, my degree is no longer called as civil engineering. It's called strategic entrepreneurship management. And that's similar to what Balaji said. A lot of universities in the US, they allow you to make that change. And once you have like all your degree requirements met and your course is selected, you can sit down with your course advisor and say, this is the exact nomenclature that I want, and this is the direction I want to head into. So because I did all of that, my curriculum didn't have anything related to civil engineering in itself. It had a lot to do with finance. It had a lot to do with digital transformation, and it had to do a lot with management. So when I looked into my resume, there were a lot of things which were aligning very well with what a management consultancy job role description would have. So that sort of helped me pivot into that direction.
Got it. Can you describe in a nutshell what you're doing currently in your current job role?
Yep, sure. So I work as a consultant in an asset management firm. So what my firm does is it collaborates with asset intensive organizations like Google, like Apple. They have lots of assets, maybe physical assets, IT assets, even workforce is an asset. So what we do is we collaborate with these organizations. We understand their business needs and requirements, and then we help them come up with their business model. And we provide consultancy on how they can streamline all of this. That is a very overview of what I do. I think there's a lot of technicality to it, but this is the broad description I'd like to give to it.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
My next questions are for Viajayalaxmi Padmanabhan. What made you choose your major of human-centered engineering and design? Were there courses during your undergraduate that you were exposed to that made you gain interest in this particular field?
Yeah, I think the story kind of goes like this. So I did IT in undergrad, right, in CEG, and then it was a 5-year course. It was like mostly like a postgraduate course. And then during that time, we got the opportunity to do a couple of internships as part of the syllabus itself. And I did my internship with Thorogood. It's a business intelligence and data analytics firm in Bangalore. And during that time, they were both like back-end and front-end related projects, and I was initially getting into service-oriented projects and then later on to front-end oriented projects. And when I came across the front-end oriented projects, like building reports and dashboards out of the ETLs that we built in, like out of the data warehousing that we did in the prior projects, was kind of like interesting. It was more interesting to me than all the back-end SQL work that I did. So kind of like realized probably that would be my jam, because I also have like an innate interest towards arts and design in general in life. Like I like designing things. I like painting and all of that. Hobbies kind of like also fell into this line. So I was exploring, and at that point, I also wanted to do a master's. So I was exploring all the majors. I didn't want to do a generic computer science. I was very sure about that. So I wanted to like a specific niche field, which I was not sure about at that time. So I took my time. I took almost like 3.5 years after graduating from Anna University. And during that time, I also met a lot of amazing people. One of such inspirations was Maharaj. He was working at Adobe back then, and he was an interaction designer. So he kind of led me to that path, I guess. Like back then I didn't know what an interaction designer was or what a UX designer was. So I used to talk to him. I used to get an understanding, and I kind of like felt, yeah, I think this would be the perfect kind of like a 9 to 5 job that I would want to do. And yeah, and then I kind of like started exploring the various courses and departments that are there for that. And it's predominantly called HCI in the US, Human Computer Interaction, and Human Centered Design and Engineering is also a kind of similar field, but it's more design oriented, and the computer parts are like relatively lesser. So yeah, and then this program also had like a very good reputation among the industry. Like the alma mater of that particular program was all around the big companies, and that kind of like also attracted me. So I kind of like decided that, yeah, I'll do this. And then, yeah, I'm here now. It's been a couple of years.
That's pretty awesome. I think that kind of speaks a lot about the importance of networking and just interacting with a lot of people, and how you can just get exposed to so many different things when you network very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Totally.
If there's a student who wants to pursue a master's in HCI and who's right now in their undergraduate or something, what advice would you give to them? How can they cater their time during their undergraduate to really stand out in the application process or something like that?
Yeah, like if they're already sure that they want to get into this field, right? So then I think there are like a lot of valuable resources out there, I guess. Like there are a lot of MOOC courses and certification courses, especially for this particular field. So just to get the taste of it, probably they could take a couple of them and see if they are like really liking it. Yeah, and there is this interaction design org as well in India. So they also kind of like have like a lot of open sourced materials for these programs, like especially for interaction design. So they could explore all those avenues and see if they really like it. It's not a very technical field, I would say. Like depends on where you are, which company you are with this particular field, right? So you could also be a UX designer in, say, Instagram. You could also be a UX designer in a complete like AWS cloud. So that kind of differentiates the complexity of the job that you're going to do. So that's called like enterprise design and consumer design. So those are like two different major categories of this particular field. So they could also explore that areas and see what they really like, and so that'll give them a taste of what they're getting themselves into.
Got it. Thank you. That was a nice round of insights from individual panel members. Now I'm going to ask these questions as common for all the panel members, and please share your insights into these questions, because these questions were collected from students through our Instagram page from Guindy Times, as well as the Ask-a-CEGian mentoring programs. And these were the most frequently asked questions. So I will kickstart with them. The first question is, why did you choose this path of pursuing higher studies? Did you consider working in India, doing higher studies in India? How did you weigh these options? Did you consider even gaining some work experience in India before pursuing a master's? Yeah, anyone can jump in, no particular order.
Yeah, so I think I can take that question because my experience kind of relates to that question. So when I completed my undergrad, like I was not thinking of doing masters at all, like not just in India, in the US, let alone US. But I just wanted to get some industrial experience to see how the industry works, and then figure out like what you really like in the industry. But that kind of experience is definitely needed. At least it was definitely needed back then in 2016 when I graduated, because at then I didn't have this amount of networking. I didn't have chat GPT or anything like that. So I just had to go through the traditional process of like figuring out everything on my own. And then when I worked, I found out that I found out my strengths and weaknesses. And I don't know how different is 2023 right now. People are graduating right now. If you have enough practical experience in just your undergrad, like if you are very much into robotics and if you are already in the robotics club of CEG, and if you have already published one or two research papers and stuff like that, like people who are really passionate about what they're doing, then you can directly pursue your masters in robotics. That will definitely work out for you. But if you're someone like me who really doesn't know what to do, but who just thinks that they want to have the learning process throughout their life, that they want to do something at some point in life, but right now they don't know what to do, those people, they should definitely go for at least 1 or 2 years of work experience in India to just figure out, to just see the complete spectrum of things happening in their industry. Who knows, they might even think that this field is not for me. I want to do an MBA right now, something like that. So that kind of realization you will get at that point. But then like people who know that they're going to do a particular thing after undergrad, but their profile is not that great, let's say, because when you come to the US and like people come with a law by taking education loans, not everybody comes in with a scholarship. So, and after that, if you're really so sure that you're just going to go into the industry, then you have to be pretty sure that you have a solid profile before coming to the US. Like if you have a solid profile, you have pretty great chances of getting a TA or an RA. And then if you don't have a profile and if you just jump fields directly, like you're doing mechanical engineering, but you want to do AI or you want to get into computer science department, like that creates a lot of competition already, and then you won't get what you need initially. Uh, at that time, you should be courageous enough to go through the process and like figure out what to do. So in any case, I would definitely say that 1 or 2 years of experience in India is pretty helpful. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just like, sorry, just to add to that, right? So even in my experience, I've seen people who come directly after their BE or like BTechs from CG do have like a little bit of more struggle than people who have like a couple of years of experience, irrespective of the field, if it's like relevant or not. It's just that professional corporate experience. It gives you an edge over others, is what I've also like, seen in my experience. Yeah.
Got it.
I'd like to add something to that as well, because what Roshan said is kind of different from what I've been going through, because I've been planning to do a master's and maybe a PhD after this since like when I was in my undergrad. So I think my journey was a bit different in that sense. And the thing is, I think experience is an important factor. Um, Even if you think 1 year or 2 years, will definitely give you a perspective of what you actually want to do. Because as an undergrad student, I think we're exposed to a lot of new things, but we don't exactly know what they are. So we just think, oh, there's this thing called thermodynamics, or there's this thing called structural engineering. oh, there's something called Java, okay, but you don't know exactly, you haven't done a project in it, you haven't done anything, it's anything that they might expect you in the industry to do. So having at least a 1 year experience would give you a good edge, but that's not exactly required because again, everyone's journey is different. So some people would say, "Oh, I came straight out of undergrad, so I have the advantage of being used to being in the educational setup." But there is people who have been working for a couple of years and who started the masters, and it ends in the same way. So it's more up to personal determination and like, but yeah, in that sense, a bit of exposure to the industry you want to go into is definitely an eye opener into uh, your decision making plan.
Um, I'd like to just add a little bit to that. I know we're like on this question for a while right now, but just like a very small thing that I wanted to say is that I feel like that kind of a decision of whether you want to work before going to masters or directly go to masters is very subjective in nature. It depends on your preferences. I think that's very important. For example, when I was doing my undergrad, I knew for a fact that I don't want to stay within the core of civil engineering. And I knew that after graduating, since at that point of time I didn't have too many other skills to help me transition into a different industry, I had to get into a civil engineering job. And I would have been working in a place where I'm not really happy for 2 years just to gain some work experience. And I knew that it will be a struggle when I come to the US for a job, because I think it's very real that if you don't have work experience when you come from masters, you do struggle to get an internship or a job a little more as compared to someone who has experience. But that's a risk I was willing to take because that's the lifestyle I wanted to lead. So I just wanted to say that it's very subjective. It's your preference. Sometimes it's as simple as whether you want to stay in India or you want to go to the US and live in the US. It's as simple as that. I think that's my take on it.
Thank you. I actually was thinking exactly the same because I know a lot of my batchmates who completed their bachelor's in IT, but then they think of if they want to specialize in something in IT or computer science, that's they might be working as software engineers right now, but they might be interested in the field of data science or data analysis. The real question is, you gain a few years of work experience, but then once you come here, do your master's in data science or data analysis or any specialization in IT, and if you're going to look for jobs pertaining to that role, how useful is your 2 years of work experience in software engineering going to be? So that's something, it could be helpful, but maybe being a data scientist instead could, and that years and 2 years of work experience in that field before coming in for a master's could be more helpful. So that's a very open-ended point of view. And yeah, that's definitely something that everyone needs to think about. Thank you. Those are, and don't worry about time limit or anything, because this is, these are questions for everyone. So please feel free. My next question is, how did you manage finances? How did you find out about the tuition cost of the program? Were there special things you did in your application for in order to get a scholarship, or just to lift off some burden of your tuition?
First. So there are a couple of things. So the first barrier to usually applying for masters is application fees are not cheap. A lot of universities will charge you just to file an application. My tip there early on, if you don't want to like, especially if you're just trying to apply and seeing how things go, usually a lot of the universities will have webinars, and at the end of the webinar, they'll offer like a code that you apply during your application that knocks off the application fee. So that's like a really good way to just cut costs there. Um, when you're, at least for me, when I was writing my applications and when I've helped friends write applications, a common pitfall that's made that I see usually don't like, it doesn't lead to as many scholarships as I've seen is don't repeat what's in your application in the essay. Like if you've already attached a resume, if they already have 3 or 4 questions about your career passions, like the essay section is not to repeat like just like word for word dump what's in your application. Use the essay section to really show the admissions panel who you are as a person. In the US, there's a lot of credit that goes into diversity. People who have work experience, people who don't, people who grew up with like 10 siblings, people who grew up in the city. Like there's like those are all experiences you don't necessarily find in the US. And that's what they value, what you bring to a class, not just your educational, but who you are as a person. So examples that I've used in these sections were I talked about like I'm the only like girl cousin, and like I grew up with a lot of cousin brothers. So talking about how that shaped my experience as a person, like my growth into building my identity, or like talking about extracurriculars, or just, dig deep into who you are as a person. And that can often lead to a very unique opinion that impresses the admissions panel. That's what I've at least noticed.
Thank you. Thank you, Casey.
Also, a lot of state universities, if you do an RA position or a TA position, waive off your fees. So look into universities which do that. There are a lot of universities which do that. So you could essentially get a master's degree for free just by working as a TA and RA. So that is something you should always look into. So higher education, usually you start getting paid. So if you start doing a PhD or a postdoc, they'll pay you to work, to study. So yeah, that is a good thing.
There's a lot of perks of pursuing a PhD in the US. I know that.
Yeah.
It's a tough path, but it pays.
I like to just give a small suggestion from my end. Is as Balaji mentioned, I think when I applied, I looked at it as 2 different streams: private universities and public universities. I feel like a very unspoken truth is that public universities tend to offer scholarships a little more than private universities do, and that's something that you have to keep in mind when you're applying. This is with respect to finalizing on the university. With respect to managing your finances after you've finalized your university and you've come to the US, there are a plethora of on-campus jobs and off-campus jobs. One thing I wanted to say is on-campus jobs are not like always there on the websites and stuff like that. So the way I got it was I reached out to alumni through LinkedIn. I asked them what kind of on-campus jobs they were doing, and they actually referred me for an on-campus job. So I think that once you're finalized from the university, it's very important to reach out to your alumni, get information from them, because in a sense, I feel like my on-campus job covered all of my living expenses, not the tuition, but the living expenses it did cover for. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also when it comes to loans, right? Oh, sorry. Did I?
I can go at the end since I already went. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, if it comes to loans, right? So Indian banks do also offer educational loans, but at higher rates than compared to like US banks or any other type of credit unions, right? So what I did was I took a loan in Prodigy Finance. They are like a UK-based lender. They do have like high lending rates. But what I did eventually was in my second year, I kind of like got a loan in the US itself in one of the US banks, which offer like relatively really lesser rates. So, and then I kind of like paid off the Prodigy loan with that. And currently, yeah, it was actually when I did my master's, it was 2%. But I guess now the rates in the US are also kind of like on the increasing side. So, but yeah, that was one of the things that I did kind of like helped me. So yeah, good to check the rates across all the banks and do your math before you rely on someone. And also like a lot of Indian banks do ask for collateral if it's like more than 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs. So you could also skip that part, like with Prodigy especially, they don't really ask for any collateral or any sort of a co-signer or somebody like that. So yeah, it's all on you and they really trust you. So yeah, it's good that way.
Thank you.
Lesser known. This is something that I didn't do, but I learned from my seniors, which I wish I had known. Um, After you get an admit, you can still ask for a scholarship. You can reach out to the admissions board saying, hey, I'm really thankful for this opportunity. I do need some financial assistance. Do you have anything you can offer, or can you guide me to resources? Because they've seen so many students. They're going to know exactly, like, based on your profile, where, what options, what you can look at. And even if you get like a scholarship that may not be the amount that you're looking for, you can say, hey, I really appreciate this. Can you like provide me more financial assistance, or can you I don't want to use the word negotiate, but you can negotiate the amount of a scholarship that you can get, especially if you have 2 or 3 admits in your hand. You can say, okay, I really want to pursue this program, but some of my other universities are offering X% or this amount. Can you please help me? If worded correctly, I think that's an option that not many people pursue as well, that can yield a lot of benefit.
Got it. Thank you. That's pretty useful. Yeah. My next question for the panel members is, what factors did you consider while choosing your university? So once you got the admit, how did you narrow it down to, this is the university I'm going to? What factors did you consider? How did you get to know and explore the universities and get to learn about the universities?
Yeah, I guess it always goes with the alumni of that university, where they are, what they are doing currently. It depends a lot on that, and also the quality of education, like reviews, and especially this course reviews. You can do that, and also you can, I guess, in certain universities they offer you to sit in a couple of course classes. Like if it's Zoom, especially, they don't really mind. You can audit certain courses even before you join, right? You can do that if you're a prospect student, and you also get to a lot of networking sessions with current students and past students and all of that. So make use of all of those opportunities while making your decision. I did actually had an admit from CMU as well, in the Haynes College, and I did accept that for the very first time, and then UW was my second in my priority order. So I did almost decide that I was going to go to CMU, but then it was a lot more expensive for me. So UW was around like 40K, and CMU was around like 100K per year, and it was a 1-year program. So the pressure that it takes to kind of land in a job after a 1-year program is also very huge. So that was also one of the deciding factors, I guess. But apart from that, I guess like the UW CED program is kind of very well reputed, and the alma mater, the alumni are really well placed in the UX industry in the Bay Area, and that kind of like gave a good insight on why I'd need to go there. And also, like from a educational quality perspective, I kind of like sat in a couple of courses, and I kind of like got the hang of the professors, the structure of the assignments, and all of that. And then it was mostly project oriented, the HED program, and there were no exams, and that kind of also attracted me. It is more application oriented, and back in India we always had all those structural, like procedural kind of courses, and we had exams and all of that. So this was a completely different educational system, is what I felt. So I also wanted to experience that. So yeah, I think that's how I made the decision.
Yeah, I also had the same experience exactly. I had to choose between CMU and UW, and then just for the reason that it's pretty expensive, and it was 110K for me in CMU, and it was a 1.5-year program. I rejected that, but then I had one more option, that I had to choose between UW and Northeastern University in Boston, which was my third choice. But then I started watching some of the lectures of the particular courses in both colleges, and I started talking to alumni, and then I found out that the UW controls engineering track is pretty famous, and it's very good, and that's one of the reasons why I chose UW over Northeastern University and CMU. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can go next. Yeah. I think when I was choosing universities, I had like a few factors to decide on which university to go to. The first one was the flexibility. Since I was still trying to figure out the niche area that I want to go into, I was looking into universities which offer a lot of flexibility within the curriculum. The second thing was the location. So in my line of work, it is very important to have a network. There's not too many bankable skills that you can put on the resume when it's a management course like mine. So it's more, you get job opportunities, you get interviews through word of mouth, through networking. So I decided that New York is a good place, as I chose Columbia University. The and the third thing is your university members. What I mean by that is in Columbia University, most of the faculty are industry professionals as well. So if you have a good relationship with your professors, they can refer you for a job within the city. And I was sort of in a conundrum of whether I want to go to Purdue University or Columbia University, because Purdue's tuition fees was significantly lower. But at the same time, I thought I took it as a trade-off because Columbia University was in New York. The alumni did have a better record of getting jobs within the city itself. In Purdue, if you get a job, you definitely have to relocate. And since it's a little remote, networking opportunities were a little lesser for my particular course. So that was my way of choosing. So location, flexibility, and of course, quality of education. But that was a little lower on my list because my job is something you do, you learn more on the job than actually in the degree. So that was my criteria.
Got it.
Echoing what Ashwin said, mine is also like a very soft skill heavy course. It was also a 1 year course, a very like there's not a ton you can put in a resume within 1 year as well. So for me, a lot of it was like what was already said, how expensive or like how affordable the university was, how easy it was to get a scholarship, um, like location, especially like if you're choosing a career path that benefits from you being actually in the place. And then for me, I also really value the placement stats. So every year for every class, for literally every single program, you can see the placement stats. So seeing like were people continuing to go into like the same like the related industries, or were they diversifying? Like if they were diversifying, that might be a signal to me that maybe the program isn't as strong or not as interesting. Or like, there are different things you can infer from that. Salary range also, some universities just help you get stronger salaried jobs. And then for me, like soft skills and personality of the the university. Um, Management is more about like personality, also about like the skills, but wherever you go, you're going to learn the same: accounting, finance, marketing. Like it doesn't change too much per university, but um, like good managers are hard to find, and that's because like you do need like a good personality and like a good sound understanding. So for me, like that was really important to choose a university that's values aligned with what I wanted my management style to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I should also talk since Roshan and Viajayalaxmi both said they didn't want to go to CMU. I think I should say why I chose CMU to begin with. I chose CMU mainly because I had a substantial scholarship offer from CMU, which made it attractive. And I think many people don't choose CMU for that one reason, but there are a lot of hidden options you can choose or mention in your, which I think Keerthana, I think covered well, like while talking about the scholarships. So that scholarship was one of the reasons why I chose CMU. But I think my selection process I started when I started the applications itself because the application fees are high. I want to be very select about where I'm applying to and not have to be stuck in that analysis paralysis situation of choosing, oh, should I go to this university, like have 10 options and be like, where to go? I just wanted to have one or two options and decide from there. So I started off by looking at like the most straightforward thing. I went on to usnews.com. I think people who are looking for this should look at that website. basically a ranking of all the universities on universities in the US, and I think they have rankings for universities around the world as well. So start from there, look at how the ranking is. Usually the top 50 rankings are very similar. Like it's not like the first one is better than the 10th one. It's just a matter of preference at that point of whether you like the placement options or you like what roles they're going into or what kind of courses are being offered. Is the flexibility what matters to you? It really matters at that point. And I think we should start thinking about where you actually want to go to from the moment you start putting your applications in. Really, because you're going to be putting in like $100 per application. So that's in INR, that's around 8,000 to 10,000 rupees. And for the most part, that's almost half the fees people would pay to go to an university. Like I know people paying 15,000, 20,000. So definitely look into how much you're going to be putting into the application and start considering it from there itself. And why I chose CMU over my other options was because of the flexibility being offered and the scholarship. Because I would be paying actually less than other places, state tuition fees, and the quality and the flexibility was very good at CMU. So that's why I chose CMU.
Thank you. So before I go ahead and ask my next set of questions, I just have a few announcements for the students to make. If prospective students were looking to pursue higher studies, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have a small collection of all the faculty and from CEG who are currently working as professors in American universities. So if you want to know more about that, you can mail the Ask-a-CEGian mentoring program. So please feel free to reach out to us if you want more insights into that small repository. Another announcement that I have to make is that we are actually looking for local graduate ambassadors from CEG to represent the Ask-a-CEGian mentoring program. So you will be a representative and you'll have, and if you're looking to gain more experience into management and experiences like that at an undergraduate level, then this would be a good opportunity. I'm just going to go ahead and drop the job description sort of document over here. If anyone interested in this position wants to have a look. So please excuse the typos, but you can click on that link to know more about the about the role, and please reach out to us at info@segana.org if you're interested in the role. Thank you. So the next couple of questions, I think I'm going to just, okay, someone said it's a protected document. Yeah, I will change the permissions on that. Thank you for letting me know, Roshni. Okay, so I'm quickly going to go over the next couple of questions and just to kind of wrap up. And students, if you have any questions for the panel members, please feel free to drop it on the chat box and we can quickly go through them and almost keep it like a rapid fire with really short and crisp answers. But I just wanted to ask the remaining questions pretty quickly. Looking back, what do you think made your application stand out? Or how do you think you stood out from the rest of the application pool?
I think SOP matters the most. Yeah.
Yep. I think I agree with Viajayalaxmi. I think the SOP really matters, and it's important to try to convey a story through your application. I know everyone says that, but trying to make it a little dramatic is actually important. It makes a difference because the panelists who review your application, they don't want to get bored, right? They won't spend more than 30 seconds reviewing your documents. Try to make it interesting through like a story or something.
Agreed with both points. Either write a good story or find a friend who knows how to write a good story and ask them to help you connect the dots.
SOP, yeah, that's the main thing. Like that's where it all starts.
Thank you. What are some challenges you faced while pursuing your higher studies in the US? It's a totally different place. You know, how things work in the US is pretty different. So how did you adapt? And what tips do you have for incoming students?
Yeah. So one thing is, it's good to know your preferences before coming here, like your apartment situation. That's a really important thing you have to consider about, because that's one thing I really faced badly. I wanted to cut some bucks and then I wanted to share a room, but that really didn't work out for me. So that adds a lot of stress to your study schedule. So please focus on that, but give a good importance to finding the right apartment at the right location with the right roommates. Like that's one thing. And then yeah, because you will be having people uh, struggling with their stuff and you will be stressed because of that, because somebody will be getting an internship or something but you will not be getting it, but you have to be persistent. So these challenges, like just being courageous at that point and going through the process. And one more important thing is, like, you need to definitely find a mentor for yourself, whether it's your department senior, or whether it's a professor who wants to help you, a young professor who wants to help you, or whether it's just your department advisor. Like, you need to have a mentor and you need to talk to them periodically and see where you stand. So these things are important to consider.
Yep.
Okay,
I think, sorry, go ahead.
go on. Yeah, go on.
All right. So I think very similar to what Roshan had mentioned with the apartment situation, it's important to make sure you don't get an apartment which is very far off from the university, because a lot of times you tend to do group studies, group events, and you shouldn't waste too much of time in your commute. Second thing, as you mentioned, don't try to save a lot of bucks by trying to adjust in a very sticky situation, because when you do move to a new country, it's a mental challenge for you, right? You have a lot on your plate. Sometimes you just want to come home and gather your thoughts, and if that place is also not good, it makes it worse. So very short suggestion from my end.
Time management is very important. Don't try to do everything. Try to do a few things really well. Learn to cook, or if you live with roommates, even better, you guys can share the cooking. Make sure you're on top of your studies because that's why you came to the US. Do your networking, find some time to socialize, and make sure it's important to set aside time for yourself to relax, like taking a walk, because, like Roshan said, it's a very stressful environment. Sometimes you just need a minute to just calm down and take a step for yourself. But don't try to be everything. Just focus on 4 or 5 things and don't go too far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
friends.
Oh,
Having a
sorry.
support system, friends kind of always help. Try to
Yeah,
make more friends, more and more friends. Sorry.
sorry. I wanted to add quickly one more point. And sometimes when you pick courses for the semester or something like that, you might see, like, let's say you want to choose 3 courses and you find like a lot of courses are pretty interesting to you, and sometimes the courses are structured like it's a pretty hard course, it's a medium course, and it's an easy course, something like that. You can judge them based on the opinion of your seniors. And if you find 3 courses which are pretty interesting to you, and but all 3 are equally hard, then you just have to, like, figure out if can you do it, like, even though they are pretty interesting. But uh, like, it's better to balance having a pretty hard course, a medium course, and an easy course for a semester. That gives you a lot of time to learn everything, because I've seen people who struggle taking tough courses all the time and then not having, and initially they want to enjoy that course, but later on they just want to go through the assignments and stuff like that and finish up the course. So that's one thing you should avoid.
One
Thank
point
you.
to add though, for mental peace, be open-minded and like, because a lot of people who come here like get the cultural shock of people being very friendly and being very helpful. It'll be like borderline suspicious sometimes. So be open to that. You'll find a lot of free food. Don't be scared for a moment sometimes on campus. They do offer a lot of free food in events, and a lot of people are very helpful. So don't think they're just there, just taking advantage of you, or just they have ulterior motives. Most of the time, it's just them being nice. So that is
Yep.
something I want to add. And I see questions in the chat. Should we also,
Yeah.
can you start answering this as well?
Sure, yes. Is it possible to come to India after higher studies?
Absolutely. I think that's quite easy to do than staying in the US. Um, yeah, that you can definitely come back to India again. But one thing I would uh, put in your head, though, it would be, do you think it's financially the correct move for you? Because you might have been spending a lot of money to be in the US. So I would say maybe work 1 or 2 years and then go back if you really want to go back. And yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like a bit of the previous question as well. Just a suggestion is if you're coming to the US for masters, try to start doing things yourself when you're in India itself. I feel like we wait till the last minute and then we come here and we're expected to like cook alone. I think when you're dealing with the new environment, new things, it's very difficult. Start like doing things alone by yourself without your family support little in India itself so that you slowly wean into the habit of doing it yourself. And second thing is, it is definitely possible to go back to India, but a lot of my friends, what they have done is after they come here, after they look at the money, after they look at the lifestyle over here, they change their decision. So just be a little open-ended when you're coming over here. And a couple of my friends, what they did is because they wanted to go back to India, they didn't enroll themselves for the H1B registration. But then after a year or two, they wanted to stay back in the US, but they couldn't because they didn't have the H1B visa. So always keep that in mind. Don't be hasty when you're telling your company that you don't want sponsorship or you want sponsorship. Think it through, have your options, and then finally take a decision, is my suggestion.
Thank you. How important are GRE scores and CGPA for admissions?
I agree with Viajayalaxmi. Ultimately, in the US, the thing they care the most, which all of us have said, is if you can create a good story, that's literally like it contributes a lot towards the application process because then you can explain, if done well, you can explain why you had a low GPA. It's because you were passionate about all these other things. You're focused on these things. So, good story, good SOP, like Viajayalakshmi said, will carry you through most of your worries on the application.
And if you really need a definitive value of CGP, anything above 7.5 is like a good enough score to get you into some other colleges. Like there might be competitive programs like Stanford, Harvard, and all, but I mean, yeah, like 7.5 is like uh, I think a doable score in CEG. So
Yep. I think in specific to the US, I think GPA is not like a very important criteria as how they treat it in India. It's like your overall profile. They look at you as a whole person. And even in like job interviews, I've never been asked a question about my GPA. It never comes up. It's your overall profile. That's about the GPA. And with respect to GRE, I think you should first make a list of the universities you're applying to and see the courses and see if GRE is a requirement. Because when I was applying, it was the COVID time and GRE was waived off. And I spent around a month and a half just prepping for my GRE. And my cohort in Columbia University, maximum of them didn't even take GRE. They just did the application and I came and I felt like, first of all, I wasted money because the GRE was very expensive. Second, I wasted a lot of time. So see if it's needed. If it's needed, then take it. If not, I would recommend not taking the GRE.
yeah,
One thing,
I took the oh, I took the GRE, but yeah, it wasn't useful for me in any sense because none of the colleges were asking for the GRE score, so I just had the score in my hand. But yeah,
Yeah, one thing to add to related to GRE is that one mistake that I made was that I gave more importance to English than math, and I scored somewhat less in math. Then I realized that math is more important than English. So that's something that I found out. So yeah, think about that too.
So most universities will post the range of GRE scores for classes. So if you have like 5 or 6 universities, you can usually see, okay, this is the range that I need to get. It's recommended, but again, you don't have to hit that score because you can work through other parts of the application. Also, one mistake that I made was I got really pressured because I saw everyone else in CEG writing GRE and TOEFL and everything, and I scheduled the test before I was ready, and I just sunk one attempt in that. So if you are like even a day before your GRE and you feel genuinely you're not ready from a skills standpoint, it's actually sometimes cheaper just to postpone it. Or even just when you're scheduling it, just because everyone is doing it, you don't have to do it right now. You can take a little bit more time. Just don't get peer pressured into doing it just because everyone else is doing it, because that was a mistake I made.
Just to add to what you said, Casey, usually when you're applying to universities, you can look at the previous year's class profile, and they will usually have the GPA range, the GRE range, even as specific as quant verbal. And if you're looking for a business school, then GMAT score range. You will even have the work experience, the different industries people worked in. So that's definitely a very great point. Thank you.
Another tip that's like not exactly related to anything, but I really recommend this. I recommend this because I used to work as an admissions ambassador for my program, and I still help with the admissions work sometimes. But it's important to reach out to alumni. But once you finalize a few universities, reach out to someone in the admissions team and ask to talk to an admissions ambassador, because sometimes they give you like information that's not on the website. Like they may tell you, like, we have 4 rounds and the fourth round has the most number of seats. The first round will give you like the highest probability. So that kind of information may not be on the site, but it's helpful to like ask and learn as well.
And there
and
is
just
this.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, there is this Yarket app that I was using before that kind of shows you the kind of profile people have and what universities that they got into. So that will be pretty helpful.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yorket app, you can get like like I looked at profiles over there and like, okay, this looks similar to mine. I can apply to this university. Like they'll drop it down to even the quant score that they got and the GPA that they have. So it's a good source.
And it
Thank
actually
you.
matters on the
Go ahead.
department. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Matters on the department because some universities within each department they have their own preferences. So look at the department website as well and what they require. So some programs might not require it, some programs will require it. For example, at CMU, the SCS department asks for it, whereas the engineering school says, we don't need the GRE scores, don't send it to us. Yeah, as Casey said, yeah, the resources are good on in CEG for that, for prepping for the courses as well.
Sure. One last question that I want to wrap up with. So I get this question, and I've encountered this situation a lot within current CEG students and even my batchmates. So if there's some people who have aspirations of pursuing higher studies, but they just do not have the financial support, how do you think they can get started with? They have all the skill set, they have work experience, but everything, just tuition is a huge hindrance from them pursuing higher studies. How do you think they can deal with the situation?
I think I can start off with this answer. Like I have two suggestions in mind. The first one is there are a lot of schemes within the government itself and also by private sections within India to support students. I can give you two examples. In my batch, I had someone who was sponsored by the government of India, and they didn't have to spend any money on tuition, only living expenses, which if you take like an on-campus job, even that is leveled. Sometimes you also get sponsorship by different agencies. For example, I believe BITS Pilani, they send out students for master's program. They sponsor them completely. So you should go and check out if there are different kinds of agencies which do this. Another thing is some agencies even give you scholarships within India, like for a university. You don't need to just look for the scholarship given by the university itself. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you come to the US, the name of the university is important, but it's not that important to a point where it will cause that much of a difference. For example, if you go to a company, you'll see someone who comes from UC Berkeley and you'll see someone who comes from a university you have never heard of. And the tuition fees in the university that you never heard of is significantly lesser, but that doesn't matter. Your job opportunities are going to be the same as long as you are willing to put in the effort. So if you want to come to the US, you want to get an opportunity over here, look at, even you can even go to like a university which doesn't have a great name. All you have to do is you have to put in the effort to make your name over there. So that don't be tantalized by the name of the university is what I'm trying to say.
And definitely reach out to the admissions officers saying that you have this sort of issue. And I am pretty sure that the universities themselves have huge endowments, so they will definitely um, have the capacity to arrange some sort of financial aid in some fashion for you. So don't be afraid to reach out saying that this is my situation, because that is just your financial situation. That is not your skills. Like, that is not the end of the day. Like, your skills are what's going to take you forward, and that's what they value. So look at that, try reaching out to them, and they will definitely have some form of way to make up for that financial situation.
Adding on to that, the I know it's scary to ask and say these things, but the worst they do is say no. That's the worst that they could do. And the best that could happen is you do get the financial aid.
Regarding research papers
And
and projects, oh wait, it's someone adding on to that. I don't want to cut them off. Okay, regarding research papers and projects, I think at CEG we don't get too many options to do projects in the course. Like, we get one mini project and a final year project. And I think, as if you want to do a research type oriented role, like research type course, then yes, it matters. But other than that, if you're going for a course-based program, they don't really play a huge role. But it just shows interest in the field. That is all. So it's not the end of the day. I think the SOP is what matters. And like, if you can portray yourself there, that's 80% of the work done. So having a project is useful, but it's not the end of the world.
Just to add on about the SOP, since all of us have mentioned about SOP multiple times, just a suggestion is, you might have written your SOP and you feel like it's really good, but it may not be that good. So always send it to different people for proofreading. It may be your family members, it may be your friends, it may be even someone you randomly met on LinkedIn who is applying at the same time that you're applying. But keep sending it to people. They'll give you a perspective, and then when you hear it from them, you'll be like, oh yeah, it doesn't really sound as good as it sounded in my mind. So take some time for your SOP. That's a suggestion from my end. Even a month is fine. Keep taking some time. I know it will feel like you're looking at the same document again and again, but just to give you an example, I think I can speak for Balaji also, because we talked a bit about the application. But I think I had like 25 iterations of my SOP. I think Balaji is along the same lines. I think most of us are along the same lines. So give a lot of importance to your SOP.
Thank you. I think we have pretty much covered all the questions. We definitely went half an hour over, which I did not plan, but here we are. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And I would like to thank the panel members so much. You guys have provided absolutely incredible insights, which will be very useful for students. And a huge shout out to KG as well for a lot of guidance, and all the students who have joined. It's been amazing organizing this and putting this together, and hopefully we'll have more sessions coming in which will be more focused. So please look out for that. And I have added the email ID, which is help.studentmentor@cegana.org. That's the email address if anyone wants to contact us. And we also have an Instagram page where we'll be posting more actively about webinars. So please be on a lookout for that. This particular session will be recorded. Sorry, it is recorded. It will be uploaded in our YouTube channel. So I think we'll be posting about that to our Instagram page as well. So please be on a lookout for that. Thank you, everyone. I think it's been amazing, and look forward to seeing you all more. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.